Hello everybody, I'm Rowan6 with Rowan6 Entertainment, and welcome to a new series, a audiobook series of my fanfiction, The Dragon Hero Dovahkiin. The background art for this fanfiction is created by me. If you're interested in me doing art commissions for you, the link to my business Discord is down below. There's also a link to my community Discord, as well as the fanfiction link. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
UA Training Grounds. As everybody approaches the training grounds, the first thing they notice is a bound and gagged Mineta hanging from a tree. The second thing they noticed was Izuku staring boredly at them and Izuku smiling happily at them. When the class was finally in front of Izuku and Izuku could not help but notice how cute Serena, Lydia, and Melissa were in their gym uniforms. But before anyone noticed that he was staring at them, Izuku decided to speak up. Now, the first thing I want to make completely clear is we do not tolerate any sexual harassment or bullying of any kind at UA. To prove this, we are making an example of Mineta. From this day forward, he is expelled from the hero course. And expect the same punishment for any other person who is found peeping into the girls' locker room. This is unacceptable behavior for hero students, and as such, I expect it not to be repeated. Izuku said as he activated his eyes to give an extra dose of intimidation before continuing. Once we are done here, I'll be taking Mineta personally to the principal's office. Until then, just ignore him. Now, today we're going to be doing a quirk assessment test. Melissa, since you have already done something similar in the prep course, and I already have your baseline, you are excused from this test. As for Midoriya, Lydia, and Serena, you will not be taking the test at all. Izuku said as he drawls out tiredly. This made Serena pout at him for ruining her fun, but before she could object to it, the voice from the invisible girl spoke up. Wait, why are those three excluded from this? Toru asked curiously. Is it not fucking obvious Deku is quirkless? So I bet the other three are just as useless as him. Bakugo said with a disgusted sneer. He was about to continue on his rant before Izuku cut in. Actually, I don't want them destroying the training ground again. These three have single-handedly destroyed enough training grounds to get a construction company out of serious debt within 2 months. Since this test requires you to go all out, I'd rather not have to deal with the paperwork that comes with another destroyed training ground. Izuku says tiredly. He was about to continue before the gravity girl cut in. Those three are the reasons why my family's construction company keeps getting contracts from UA. I have seen the bills on those things, and it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. I even visited once to see one of the news sites, and it looked like somebody reenacted World War II. Okako exclaimed. Everybody was in disbelief at what she said, but when the teacher gave them a confirmatory nod, questions started to fly. But before anyone could answer them, a voice that Izuku, Melissa, Serena, Lydia, and Izuku recognized grabbed everybody's attention. I'm sorry that we are late, I had to deal with a problematic student on the way here. Midnight says as she enters the clearing with 4 other students. Ah, yes, finally my students have arrived. Izuku says, clapping his hands together in approval. Izuku was about to introduce everybody before he was cut off. Like you have any students, so stop acting like you actually matter, Deku. Bakugo says condescendingly. Bakugo, you have detention. Report to the principal's office after school. Izuku says as he stares at him coldly. Huff, we both know you don't have the power to do that, Deku. Bakugo says with a sneer. He even decided to let off some small explosions in an attempt to intimidate him, but it didn't work. He was going to say something else to him, but he was quickly cut off by the voice of Midnight. Actually, he can. Izuku here is not just a student, but he is a teacher. If it wasn't required for him to go to a hero school, he could have already taken the licensing exam. Due to his quirk status and his physical age, he has to do the hero course. So I expect you to treat him as if he were a teacher and not just a student. Now, for your constant disrespect to my Izuku, I'm also going to give you a week's worth of detention. Midnight says, annoyed. Bakugo just let out a growl in a mixture of annoyance and anger, but said nothing in response. He knew he was on thin ice as it is, so he'll play along for now. He did not know how he got a teaching position or how he beat him in the entrance exam. But he would get his answers, and all he had to do was wait until after school to get them. All he had to do was ambush him after school, beat him into the ground like he always has, and keep doing it until he got the answers he wanted. The mere thought of the idea of putting him in his place made him smirk viciously. But to his annoyance, his thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Izuku speaking up again. Now, like I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted. These 4 students are from the UA prep course. The prep course is for some of the students who showed the talent, potential, and drive to be heroes in the entrance exam. But they couldn't really succeed due to them not having a combat-related quirk or a quirk that simply just didn't work on robots. Some of them are from other courses who wish to get a double major, like Miss Hatsum here. She's officially in the support course but wishes to get her hero license as well. The prep course here will be part of some of the Class 1A and Class 1B training exercises. They will also be doing some extracurricular activities so they can catch up and transfer into the hero course after the sports festival. They can also instantly take up a spot when somebody is expelled. Which, I'll have to figure out which one of them will be taking the pervert spot. As such, I expect to see you 4 after school. Now, why don't you introduce yourselves, with your name, your quirk, and a little bit about yourself? Izuku says, smiling at his class. A girl with light brown hair that reached her shoulders and with a slender but curvaceous body spoke up first. Hi, you all, I'm Kami Utsushimi, but you can call me Kami. My quirk is called Glamour. I can emit a mist from my mouth that can cast auditory and visual illusions. Which, sadly, does not work on robots or cameras. I like gaming, dancing, fantasy novels, and children. Kami says in a bubbly tone. The next one to speak was a girl with a quirk that gave her the traits of a fox. She is a very tall, fox-like girl with a curved figure. She has blonde hair that just reaches her shoulders, a single strand of which goes down the right side of her face. She has large blue eyes with bushy eyelashes and pointed ears, along with green fur and a white furry underbelly. Hi, my name is Kimiko. My quirk is called Foxkin. I can do anything a fox can do, such as have better senses, good eyesight, which allows me to see in the dark, extra agility, and great hearing. I like hugs, foxes, and lazing around. Oh, I also like to cuddle. I'm also going for a double major in the business course. Kimiko says cheerily. The next girl was a girl with pink hair in dreadlocks. With steampunk-styled goggles on her head, she appeared to be tinkering with an object and looked to be oblivious to the situation. Then Kimiko tapped her on her shoulder and realized it was her turn. Oh, Is it my turn already? Sweet, I'm May Hatsum, but you can call me May. My quirk is called Zoom. It allows me to zoom in my vision so I can see extremely long distances or see close objects in better detail. I like making my babies, producing babies, and working with my babies. May says, oblivious to the large amount of blushes that the majority of the class were now sporting. Sighing heavily, Izuku decided to clarify what she meant. When she says baby, she means inventions or support gear. Izuku says as he gives a signal to move along to the next one. The next girl has ash blonde hair that is styled into two messy buns, with numerous wild strands sticking out, a straight fringe, and two chin-length side bangs framing her face. She had eyes that were similar to a cat's and looked nervous. Hi, I'm Himiko. I'm not comfortable talking about my quirk, but I like the color red and cute things. Himiko says nervously. Which just made Izuku sigh at hearing that. He knew Himiko was still getting comfortable with the blood aspect of her quirk. Apparently, her parents forced her to suppress her quirk, which required her to have a steady supply of blood in her diet. If it wasn't for Serena and Nemuri finding her in an alleyway a month back, she probably would have gone completely insane. Luckily for the girl, Serena knew exactly what was happening to her, thanks to the similar symptoms that happen when vampires are starved, and because of that, she was able to help her. She now lives with them in one of the various spare rooms that they have in their apartment. It doesn't help that Serena pretty much treats her like her own daughter, and she's being encouraged by that same woman to see Izuku as a father figure. Which would be odd if he was actually the age he looked and not 24, and if he was not already used to Serena's antics. Deciding to continue to prevent anyone from asking any questions that would bother Himiko, he cleared his throat before speaking. Now that you have met the prep course, it is now time to get these tests out of the way. With that said, Izuku began to speak and do his usual stick, which is threatening to expel them, etc. And after all the tests were done, they figured out no one was getting expelled. Then Izuku decided to throw Izuku a curveball. Mr. Midoriya, now that the training field is done being used, I want you to show the class what you can do, just don't destroy the training ground too much. Izuku said as he tossed the softball to him. Sighing, Izuku decided to humor him. He knew that Izuku wanted to know how strong he actually was and at the same time cement himself among the students. He also suspected that he was only doing it now since All Might was spying on the lesson the entire time, but he finally left. He also suspected that, because of All Might's presence, he did not want him, Melissa, Serena, and Lydia to do the test in the first place. Although he wondered why, since he was going to find out tomorrow anyway at the next staff meeting. Sighing, he started to approach the circle but stopped, realizing that he needed to know something. He turned around and asked his question out loud for everybody to hear. Hey, does anybody know which way is Tokyo? Izuku asked sheepishly, which confused everybody who heard it. But thankfully, Momo decided to help out by skeptically pointing in a direction. To which Izuku gave a nod of thanks. As he approached the circle, Serena cast a barrier around the students, knowing that they were definitely going to need it. When he entered the circle, he turned in the opposite direction that Momo pointed and decided to show off a bit. Summoning a chest that was filled with potions, he picked a couple of strength potions and drank them. Even though they were mid to high tier potions, he knew that he had to get rid of them anyway, since they were going to expire next week. He then decided to quickly cast 3 different spells to start off with. The first one was Steel Skin, which improved his defense and all-around strength. The second spell was Aura of Strength, which gave him even more of a strength boost. The third spell was Zone of Strength, which made anyone in the zone twice as strong. The next thing he did was use the Dragon Aspect Shout to boost his strength even further. Then, channeling the Fireball spell as well as coating the ball in ice to prevent it from disintegrating. He threw the ball as hard as he could, at the same time launching the Fireball spell. Three things happened. The first thing was that the force of Izuku's throw created a sonic boom and shattered every window in the area. If it wasn't for the barrier that Serena put up that prevented any sound or force from penetrating it, everybody would have been launched away and probably would have shattered eardrums. The second thing was the ground being torn up from the ungodly force of the throw. There were large visible cracks in the ground, and the tree that Mineta was tied to had overturned. He was lucky that the rope that tied him to it did not snap under the force, or he wouldn't be around anymore. The third thing was the stream of fire that launched the ball into the air. They eventually heard an explosion in the distance that everybody assumed launched the ball even further. Izuku was completely done with the day and completely regretted what he had just authorized. He then showed everybody the stats that were on his phone without saying a word, which in clear digital text showed the numbers 9.7 kilometers. This made everybody's jaws drop, but they were quickly knocked out of their stupor by a scream of disbelief. "Did you seriously just throw it off the south coast?" a completely flabbergasted Momo shouted out in complete disbelief. But before Izuku could say anything, a now furious, angry Pomeranian was now charging at him. He did not even get halfway towards him before three blurs pinned him to the ground. The first one who was pinning him to the ground was surprisingly Kirishima, who was pinning his arms to the ground as he hardened his body. The other two were unsurprisingly Lydia and Serena, who were pinning his chest and legs down. Izuku slowly approaches the now rabid Pomeranian with his dragon aspect cloak still active and crouches down to meet its eyes. Tusk, tusk, tusk. "Oh, Katsuki, there's no need to get so upset about me beating your record," Izuku said condescendingly to the thoroughly pinned Bakugo. "How the fuck did you get a quirk?" Bakugo screamed out as he practically foamed at the mouth in rage. "Katsuki, this isn't a quirk, and I am still quirkless. What you're seeing now is 10 years of hard work. Now, if you attempt to attack me again outside of a training exercise, I will have no choice but to expel you. This is your only warning," Izuku said as he walked away and signaled the three to get off of him, which they reluctantly did. Although he does see Kirishima with some others now looking at Bakugo with caution in their eyes. It was obvious that the group of students was ready to act just in case he decided to attack somebody again. Which was quite warranted, especially if the unadulterated rage that he's barely containing was anything to go by. Izuku quickly dismissed the class but held back a couple so he could talk to them. The ones he ended up holding back were Toru Hagakure, Momo Yayorozu, Shoto Todoroki, Mina Ashido, Fumikage Tokoyami, and his sister. Although Himiko and Melissa were hanging back with Serena as they waited for him. There were some discrepancies and concerns between the six of them that he needed to address as the six approached him. When they finally got to him, he started to speak. "There are a couple of things that I wanted to go over and hope to snuff out before they get out of hand or fix it if I can. First, Miss Hagakure, do you simply prefer to be invisible, or can you not turn it off?" Izuku asked calmly, which caused the invisible girl to fidget. I can't turn it off. Ever since I was 4 and my quirk came in, I was invisible. Toru said in a shy voice. Okay, are you simply transparent, or is it light refraction? Izuku said as he pulled out a notebook from out of nowhere. Which confused everybody, even Lydia and Serena. Even though the two were with him in Skyrim and have witnessed this many times, they still don't know how he does it. Hell, Serena even did a full investigation into it, and to this day, she doesn't know. But her money is on some type of conjuration magic that he subconsciously is using. But their thoughts were cut off by the confused voice of Toru. I don't know, the doctor didn't really do many tests when I got it, and if they did, I was too little to remember. Toru said. Okay, we can figure that out right now. I'm going to cast a spell called Light. What it does is create a ball of light that you can launch at objects or people, and it will hover over whatever it lands on. Now, if it's light refraction, the spell should go around you instead of hitting you. If you're simply transparent, it should just hover over you when it lands on you, okay? Izuku said calmly, and once Toru nodded, he cast the spell. As the ball of light approached her, it immediately veered course and went around her and struck the tree behind them, which it started hovering right next to. Okay, light refraction, that's good. Izuku said, smiling, but before he could continue, Momo spoke up. It is all well and good, but how is this information going to help Toru? Momo asked curiously, which only made Izuku smile. Well, Miss Yaorozu, this information helps a lot because now she doesn't need to learn a spell to make her visible, and I can fix her problem immediately. Izuku said, which shocked the group. Wait, you're telling me that you can make me visible again? Toru said excitedly, she's been invisible for so long she could not remember what she looked like. If this boy could fix that for her, she would be forever grateful. Absolutely, just give me a second to get the item. Izuku said before casting a spell to conjure a chest, which made the group gawk at the sight. As Izuku rummaged through the chest that appeared to be filled with jewelry, Momo could not help but wonder what other things that magic could do. Perhaps she could integrate her quirk somehow with magic. Her thoughts were cut off by the scream of triumph from Izuku as he stood up from the chest holding a golden ring. Dismissing the chest, he walked over to Toru and started to explain. Okay, this ring is enchanted. You see, I was experimenting with light refraction, and I came up with this failed prototype. Izuku said, but before he could continue, he was cut off by Mina. Failed prototype? Why would you be giving her a failed prototype? Mina asked, confused, which everybody shared in. Sigh, I was getting to that. You see, I was trying to make an enchanted item that refracted light around the person wearing it. I wanted to improve the invisibility spell since the spell does not actually make you invisible. But we'll get into that further during our other lessons. Anyway, when I was experimenting, I ended up creating an enchanted item that negated all light refraction on the one who wears it. Izuku said, which confused everybody but Momo and Serena. Sigh, in other words, when you wear this, you become visible again. Izuku says, handing the ring to Toru, who puts it on. Within seconds, her body starts to phase into existence, showing that she has pale skin, silver unruly hair that seems to have a shine to it, thick eyelashes, and green eyes that glitter like emeralds. Conjuring a mirror, Izuku handed it to her so she could see herself. As she looked at herself, she immediately started to cry in happiness and immediately started to hug Izuku. All he could hear from the girl as she buried her head into his chest were sobs of thank you that she repeated over and over again. It took several minutes for her to calm down, but when she did, she started to look at herself constantly in the mirror, secretly hoping that it was not a sick joke or dream. Which only gave Izuku a smile, but he knew that he had to move on. Okay, the next order of business is you, Miss Yayorozu. From observing you, I could tell that you had a sheltered life. I'm guessing from how you present yourself that you come from a quite wealthy family. Am I correct? Izuku asked, to which Momo nodded in response. Okay, I'm only bringing this up because I noticed that you have missed a lot of social cues and you have shown signs of low self-worth. This caused Momo to blush in embarrassment. Don't be embarrassed, you put up a very decent front, but I have trained myself to notice such things. Now Serena and Lydia are pretty much in the same boat as you when it comes to social cues. This is because they're from a totally different dimension and a totally different time period. As such, I've been teaching them the social cues that they need to fit in, and I am offering to do the same for you. Izuku said, which made Momo smile at him in gratitude. When she agreed to meet with him weekly, he moved on. Miss Ashido, I noticed that you were crying earlier in the classroom and that you flinch every time Bakugo sets off an explosion during the test. This caused Mina to flinch. It's alright, Mina, there was a time when I was terrified of the guy, as you probably know. So if you feel like you need to talk to someone, I can arrange for you to meet with Hound Dog, who is a qualified therapist and counselor. Izuku said as he put a hand on her shoulder in an attempt to comfort her, which it did. After agreeing to talk with Hound Dog once a week, he made a mental note to talk to him before leaving school, and then he moved on. Mr. and Miss Tokoyami, you and your sister are going to be seeing Hound Dog once a week. This is mostly for your sister since she's been treated as a quirk all her life, and I can see that she's literally having an identity crisis all day. As such, I am making this mandatory, and it's not up for discussion. Izuku said, causing both of them to nod in agreement. Although Izuku did make a note that Miss Tokoyami was hiding in her brother's clothing in an obvious attempt to cover herself. She is probably self-conscious of herself now since she now realizes that she's actually a person and not a quirk. Izuku guessed he would most likely need to be in the meeting with those two with their parents. Deciding to move on and deal with that later, he looked at the final person, Shoto Todoroki. Mr. Todoroki, I would like to know why you have not used your fireside in the test. Izuku asked firmly, which startled Todoroki. But when he got himself back under control, he narrowed his eyes at him before speaking. I made an oath to never use his flames. Todoroki said coldly. This only made Izuku quirk an eyebrow in curiosity. Oh, and why is that? Izuku said with a firm tone, but it was obvious that there was also curiosity lacing it as well. Do you know what a quirk marriage is? Todoroki asked, but before anyone could say anything, he continued. My father bought my mother so he could have a perfect child to surpass all might, since he could not. He forced my mother to have children until she broke mentally and poured boiling hot water onto my face. And because of what he did to my mother, I made an oath to never use his fire and have nothing to do with that man. Todoroki said emotionlessly, but Izuku could tell from the look in his eyes that he has nothing but rage in his soul for that man. This only gave Izuku two options, either he should attempt to convince him to accept his fire, or he could help him maintain his oath. A small childish part of him that was soaked in the naivete of what heroes were, wanted to convince him to use the fire part of his quirk. But the jaded veteran warrior who lived 10 years in another dimension knew that his oath might not have been dipped in trauma but in conviction. Losing that conviction could hurt him in the long run and could set him back emotionally. With his mind made up, Izuku speaks. Todoroki, tell me, if I could remove your ability to use your fire, would you improve yourself? Will you compensate for your weaknesses even if it means using support gear? Izuku said as he looked straight into Todoroki's eyes, which stared back with conviction burning in them. Yes, without hesitation, unlike my father, I would not limit myself to equipment or training. My oath only pertains to his fire and to him, nothing else. Todoroki says with conviction in his voice as well as in his eyes. Running his hands through his hair, Izuku decides to make his final decision. Okay, if you agree to cover for your weaknesses, I'll agree to seal your fire away permanently. Izuku says, which shocked the group. You can't be serious, you should be trying to convince him to use his fireside, not help him suppress it. Mina says, flabbergasted. Why not? Quirks are nothing but tools, so it is his choice not to use them. Plus, I have seen many wizards who have the knowledge to use different spells but decide to focus on only one of them. It also helps that I have met people like him before, and because of that, I can tell the difference between conviction and trauma. Although he has trauma, it is not affecting his oath is only made up of nothing but conviction. Plus, he said he would improve and compensate for the weaknesses that come with the ice side of his quirk. As long as he does that and keeps improving, why should I judge? Izuku said, quirking an eyebrow at Mina. This seemed to satisfy Mina, so Izuku decided to continue. Anyway, I'm making it mandatory for you to go see Hound Dog. This is not up for discussion, it's obvious you have a lot of mental trauma, and it needs to be addressed. I will also look into your situation further with Principal Nizu. That's all I have for you guys today, you are dismissed. Izuku says, and after everybody walks away, he walks over to his small group. Are you finally done? Melissa asks Izuku as she sports a Cheshire grin. Unfortunately, no, I'm going to have to sit in the meeting with the Tokoyamis. I will most likely have to present my findings to them. I also have to deal with the prep course and some other stuff. So why don't you go home and get dressed, and I'll meet you at the restaurant in 2 hours. Izuku said with an apologetic smile, which only caused Melissa to sigh before speaking up. It's okay, it will give me enough time to get properly ready anyway. I'll see you there, Izuku. Melissa says before kissing him and walking away. After seeing Melissa off, Izuku walked towards Serena, Lydia, and Himiko to speak with them. Hi, you two. How was your first day, Himiko? Izuku says lovingly. It was alright. Himiko says meekly. Izuku held back a sigh at hearing how shy she was. But he knew what would cheer her up and probably get her out of her shell a bit. Well, when you get home, I made blood pie as well as blood velvet cake that you can have for dessert after dinner tonight. This made Himiko instantly perk up in excitement. This also causes Serena to grin like a maniac at the now excited Himiko. She knew that he was going to be good with her, but unfortunately, they had to get going. Okay, Izuku. I'm going to be taking Himiko to her session with Hound Dog. I'll see you when you get home. Have fun with Melissa. Come on, Lydia, let's get going. Serena says, but before the three can go, Izuku stops them. Wait, do you mind handing this to Hound Dog? It's the list of people that need to be scheduled with him. I'd like an answer back tomorrow if he can. Izuku says as he hands the paper to Serena, and with a nod of agreement, they leave the training field. Sighing for what felt like the 18th time that day, he started to head to Nizu's office to get to the meeting with the Tokoyami family.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!